Maple Leafs head into the Olympic break on a win streak, but should that change their plans? Hey everyone, welcome to Inside the Leafs. Rob Wong, joined alongside by Toronto Sun Maple Leafs writers Lance Hornby and Terry Koshan. And guys, it was just a few days ago when it seemed very clear to everyone that watches the Maple Leafs that this team was ready for a retool, but here they are now with 3 wins in a row. Their latest impressive one on the second half of a back-to-back against the Oilers to put them 5 points back of a playoff spot with 25 games remaining. Terry, should this mini win streak change anyone's opinion about what GM Brad Treliving should do ahead of the trade deadline?
Well, I don't think so, but we'll see. I mean, they're 5 behind right now. They could be 7 behind after Wednesday night if the Bruins win in Florida. So, yeah, you've won a bunch of games. And you kind of made a dent in that deficit, but you're still looking at getting past teams like Washington and Columbus and then keeping your fingers crossed that one of Montreal, Buffalo, or Boston falters, right? You're going to need that sort of help because I think we've come to learn that teams can go on these great winning streaks and you're still just knocking on the door. Columbus, I think, is a good example. They've won a bunch in a row and they're still not into it and, 5 points out. So I don't think it necessarily changes what they're planning to do if that's to sell a bit before the deadline on March 6th. We'll have to see. If you're going to argue that the Leafs can make it, then somehow in the last 25 games, they have to be a lot better defensively than they have been. They still give up way too many goals at 5-on-5, most in the NHL. And, if you look at this recent streak, they were outplayed in Calgary and had a little bit of luck on their side, managed to beat a team that doesn't score goals. And then last night in Edmonton, without Stolarz, the Leafs don't win. They're outshot 35-22. At 5-on-5. So it's not like these are by any stretch complete 60-minute wins. And it's only going to get tougher once they come back. The whole slate of games against Atlantic Division, Eastern Conference rivals. So I don't think it changes. I could be wrong on that. Certainly, 12 hours or 14 hours could change a lot. So they're 7 back, then yeah, for sure.
I think it's pause for thought when you look at what they did in Edmonton and certainly on this trip. I mean, here, what a shock. With Nylander back in the lineup and with goaltending, they're winning games. And to Terry's point, yeah, the defense, is defensive hockey has been their downfall. And that's really, when we go back to when they were definitely in buying mode, they were probably looking for some help there once it became Tanev wasn't going to wasn't going to be there, or maybe, on a fluke, if he got really good medical news come back at the very end. So I would say, Brad Treliving is probably going to look at, he's probably going to go through the break, that as we sit here, it's not the roster freeze yet, but why not take a look at those 3 games when they come back? They play 3 out of 4, all within the division. I think that's going to be very telling. And they've given people pause for thought. And they're, when, we can put a good effort like that on the road in Edmonton. Of course, they have to do it again, but many more times down the stretch. But you have Anthony Stolarz there with the kind of goaltending he gave them last year in tandem with Wall, and that's a big thing. As we all know, goaltending makes GMs a lot smarter. The Leafs weren't getting it, now they are. Again, something for them to think about, I think, before they adopt a full sell mode.
I guess the other side to that is, if you're not selling, what are you doing? You're certainly not adding. You have nothing to sell, nothing to trade asset-wise. So, and I guess you stand pat, right? Like I just, like I said, I don't know. It's not being done with smoke and mirrors, but they're not a good team, and somehow they have to be way better in the second half.
We've taken them off once and just saying that it's going. They're definitely not. They're definitely not. Don't get me wrong. They face a big climb to get back in, but it's the second time potentially.
I guess what I would say to that is, if you're going to argue that they can make it, then show us the evidence that they can do it. Right now, we're not saying anything.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm talking about. The 3 games to start after the break.
We'll see.
Well, the strange thing, and I think Terry kind of pointed out, even some of these games where they haven't played well, they're still winning. So it's kind of working against them in some ways here, where the process maybe isn't good, but the result is turning out in their favor, at least here in the short term. Mattias Maccelli with a nice couple of games in Alberta, Lance, 3 goals in those 2 games. The production hasn't consistently been there, but he has definitely shown some flashes of being an offensive playmaker, still just 25 years old. Is he someone that the team should be looking to keep or deal at the deadline?
Well, you know what? Here again, you and I and Terry talking about the big T's, and certainly this is a guy who's he's not helping matters here by suddenly looking like the player the Leafs thought they were going to get prior to scoring a couple here. Let's remember, no road goals, consecutive goals in only I think 2 games in November. But he seems to have found a comfort level on the line he's at now. I don't know if I don't know if the Leafs, let's say the Leafs are in sell mode. I don't know if this little turnaround of his is going to fetch anything. But you know what? If the Leafs have a fire sale, they can probably get something for him. But if this is the real Maccelli, and this is something they have to grapple with, and certainly something I'd like to see when they get back in that 3 games in 4 that I talked about, that's going to factor much into what Brad Treliving does. And just as a note, I mean, he wears 63. Brad Marchand was the guy the Leafs thought they were getting, exactly double the points of Brad Marchand in one more game than Marchand has played.
Yeah, so going into you take those past 2 games out of it, I think he has 2 assists in 8 games, and he's about a -8 or 9. So, is this I don't know what this is, to be quite honest. Is it finally Maccelli using some of the offensive skills that the Leafs thought they were getting last summer? It looks that way. I don't know where he is on the list of guys to go if that's the way they go. I think Bobby McMahon is at the top of it. I don't think there's any argument there. That's what all anybody is talking about right now. And then you look at a Scott Laughton, perhaps. We're talking about UFAs here. Another guy that I think they should look at trading, so I think they could get something for him, is Oliver Ekman-Larsson if this bottom continues to fall out. I think there'll be a nice package there coming back, and we saw it again last night. 34, the age doesn't matter. There's a lot of bite in his game, more than anyone else in the blue line, which might say something else about the rest of the decor. But he could get something. As far as Maccelli goes, we'll have to see. I don't necessarily buy the idea that the Leafs are going to be able to carry this momentum into the resumption of games. I thought Berube made a good point last night, though, when he was talking after. He said, the Olympics are going to have a lot to do with it, alluding to who could possibly get injured over there. How could those things impact other teams? Who's coming back flying? Which players are coming back feeling really bad about themselves because they didn't win a gold medal? And does any of that impact the Maple Leafs? We'll have to see. And how that impacts what Treliving wants to do before March 6th. But Maccelli, I don't know if it's too little, too late, but you do kind of look at some of the things he's done in the past 2 nights and say, where the hell has this been? Because it's been absent for most of the year. The guy's been the guy sat in the press box for a long stretch. It's not because he's playing good hockey.
And the only thing I'd add to that Olympic comment about Berube is that everyone says, well, the Leafs should do well coming off because they only have 3 Olympians. Those are 3 pretty good guys who are not going to have much of a break when they come back. 3 important players, and you factor in the travel. That's going to be interesting too.
Yeah, it's especially you get to that gold medal game, right? There's not much of a turnaround before your next game. You're hitting the ice, within 48 or 72 hours. So it's going to be a big adjustment. I don't know if that's the right word, but yeah, somehow you have to try to hit the ground running. And like I said, if you're a disappointed player coming back, you're going to have to leave that in Milan because you can't let that impact your game once the regular season resumes.
Well, those 3 players, arguably the most important players on the Toronto Maple Leafs, and Austin Matthews, William Nylander, and Oliver Ekman-Larsson. But no Maple Leafs hockey until February 25th. Enjoy the few weeks off as the Maple Leafs will send those 3 players over to Milan. We'll see how they fare. As always, leave your thoughts in the comment section below for Lance Hornby and Terry Koshan and Rob Wong. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you on the next one.